Welcome to 9 Point Started With a Dream podcast. Our goal is to showcase the stories of athletes and the community that supports them by being authentic about their journey. Here's your host, Jacolby Gilliam.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host as always, Jacolby Gilliam. We're still on our Athlete Abroad series featuring some of their talented athletes and their journeys and stories. And today's guest is Julie Lengweiler. Being from Switzerland, Julie went pro at 16. And she kind of shared how that journey kind of molded her career and kind of helped her, grow up, but also helped her decide to dream bigger. And I'll let her kind of tell more about how she decided to dream big. But it's a great story here, unique journey, and you'll get inspired by it. And let's get to it. When you're younger as an athlete, what was like your biggest dream goal you wanted to achieve?
So yeah, I wanted to be a professional volleyball player. I wanted to play abroad. There was no one else doing this. Yeah, at the time, all those Swiss players were playing in Switzerland. And I wanted to be able to travel and see the world or Europe more because of volleyball. I wanted to play Champions League, which is the highest international competition that there is for club volleyball. I definitely wanted to represent Switzerland and play a European Championship because that was also something that Switzerland's never achieved before. So I wanted to be part of that project. I guess I really had, part of me probably still does, but maybe in different ways. But I wanted to be like an influential Swiss volleyball player on like international stage because we had no one. Yeah.
I love that. So it's only you kind of want to be a role model for the next generation a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted to inspire more kids to dream big because I also felt that like with my dreams, I was very lonely. There was no one else who kind of like had the same talks and I had. I would say like it was more, which is also, perfectly fine. But I think most kids my age were more saying like, oh, I just want to play professionally in Switzerland, or I want to play at this club in Switzerland. And I was kind of like the only one who, I didn't really care where to go in Europe. Like I had in a club where like, I want to play for this specific club in Europe, but I was just like, no, I don't want to play in Switzerland. Like I want to go abroad. I think definitely that's that dream big and like be okay with well, you're gonna fail as well if you're gonna dream big. Not all the dream bigs are gonna come true, but that perspective was something that meant a lot to me, and I feel like still does, and I still hope that young kids will follow with that.
Yeah. Love it. So having such a big dream, kind of wanting to be a game changer, for Swiss volleyball. How do you think about how I'm going to make that a reality?
Well, at the moment, I can like look back and say like a few of those things definitely have come true. So I was able to represent Switzerland at the first European Championship they ever played, which was 2019. I do now play abroad. I played last year in Finland. I'm going to Spain next year. So I'm accomplishing that goal. But I think it's in a different way that I like thought it was going to be. I thought that maybe the predominant thing is going to be my skills and like my level of volleyball, whereas now I don't really see that as my biggest strength when it comes to like a role model, or like I hope that people see a little bit more than that, because at the moment I think Switzerland's doing really great. We have I'm one of the 3 Swiss players that play abroad for women's volleyball, and 2 of them play in like, they used to play in Germany last year, and one is going to Italy next year, which is one of the highest leagues there is in volleyball. And so I feel like they take more on the part of like being representative of like skill sets and like having that like, wow, they're like amazing Swiss volleyball players, and they really are competing on high levels with other European players, and they are capable of doing so. Whereas for me, I feel like I would say I'm more of a mediocre player. Sounds really like radical, but I really think there's no, I'm not hurt by that. I hope that like there were gonna be or follow a lot of Swiss players who will have my level, because I don't think it's like that extraordinary in a sense. But I hope to be like a role model when it comes to like still pushing through it. Like that was my dream. And I wasn't the best club of Switzerland. We won for many years, but I wasn't, and I was playing as well. I was a starter, but I wasn't like one of the main hitters, I would say. Like I didn't have a huge responsibility, and I definitely wanted that more. And I decided to try out and like see what there is outside of Switzerland. And I feel like that was something that never was seen before. Like the Swiss players who left were like definitely like the best of the league, and they like were dominating. So then they felt comfortable of leaving, and I wasn't at that point, and I still decided, no, I'm going to try. And I think it was the best decision I ever took, because I came to a team that's never won before in Finland. They didn't have any championships yet, but they had organization, everything. They were really committed on winning. So they had everything in line for it able to work out. Like they had the money, they had the sponsors, they had the coaches. So I came to that team, and it was so fun from the beginning on. We really talked about winning 2 gold medals, the cup and the championship. And we did both. And I am both like was able to have more of a, I don't want to say bigger role in the sense of like, I think everyone on the team matters. It doesn't matter, as you said before as well, like it doesn't matter if you're literally not touching the court at that point, like only because of the practices and the way that you contribute, the team is able to win. So I don't think like I necessarily don't really love the word of like, oh, you have a bigger role, but if you go by stats, let's say I had just more balls to hit and more balls to swing. And that was something I was looking for, of getting those balls in the important moments. It was something I hadn't experienced in my previous club. And I don't know, I feel like, so for me, it turned out like great. It was awesome. It was such a fun year. And yeah, I guess being a role model for Swiss players more in that sense of like, you don't need to be the so-called star of Switzerland to be able to leave. Like you can also just go if you feel like, okay, I'm ready. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah.
I love that, because it's like very humble of you to say that, and like in very like reality, right? We can't all be, I guess like I'm thinking just people that I know, like Jordan Larson, right?
Yeah.
We can't all be that person, but we can
Yeah.
all be, our version of greatness. And for
Yeah.
you, I was like, I want to have my role on the team, and just be the best I can be in that role.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So I guess, so the kind of like, being from Switzerland, it is the stigma that a lot of athletes are, I wouldn't say scared, but just are unsure about leaving.
Yeah, definitely. I think, interesting enough, that's a difference to like Americans a lot. I think the Swiss mentality is not really sports focused. So a lot of parents, and also like just family members, teachers, whatever, like your whole surrounding won't really push sports, because it's just not seen as like that great of achievement. Only, and that sounds really sad, but it's just a reality, only if you're a male and play like the 2 main sports, which are soccer and ice hockey in Switzerland. I think then people are way more like, oh yeah, sure, push that, that's awesome, you're gonna make so much money, whatever. And I mean, I'm sure you know that about Switzerland, we have high salaries in almost everything, in almost every job. So as a volleyball player, you're almost never gonna reach those, like, even as a great volleyball player, you're not gonna make as much money as a great whatever teacher, a great, like, it's just, yeah. So I think coming from that like background of like sports just isn't as important, I think a lot of people really struggle to dream big and have this aspiration to be like, okay, like, well, I want to leave and I want to push boundaries, I want to see what's out there, I want to put myself out there as well, because I think we get very much pushed in that like, okay, sports great, but just make sure that you also have an education, make sure that you also study, make sure that you also, and I think that's good. It's good that we don't forget that sport is something that has an end, as sad as it is, but for most of us it will come to an end. It's not something you can do for the rest of your life. But I think during the time that you can, I think it's important to also realize that this is a short period of time that we have, and like leave it all out there. And I'm sure we will all figure it out afterwards. I don't think that we will struggle all too much with finding a job afterwards. So, yeah.
So kind of going back to your kind of early playing days, at what age did you kind of realize like, hey, I am pretty good at this sport?
So I always grew up in volleyball. My mom is a volleyball coach, so I don't really remember my first early contact with volleyball. I was always there. But I remember the first time, I think with like around 11, 10, I don't know, I realized that there was going to be youth national teams and I wanted to be in that team. But that was like for under 15 girls. So like I had to be like 13, 14 to even try out. So it was like something in the future to think of. But they did have like open tryouts. And my coaches were just like, you know what, Julie, like, even though you're too young, just go. Like, it's just good for you to know. So if it comes up, you already know how one of these tryouts look like. And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, if I can go, I go. I didn't think of it at all. I just went and tried out, and they actually offered me a spot on the team. And I was like 3 years younger than everyone. I was 12 years old, and everyone else was like 14, yeah, touching 15, whatever. And I remember that moment that I was like the dream that I had became reality so much earlier. And it was a really weird kind of realization of like, okay, they probably see a lot of potential in me or a lot of talent, otherwise I wouldn't have this opportunity. But also a big discomfort because I felt the weakest, I felt the youngest. Like, I think at 12, a 14-year-old girl is just so much older, so much different problems. I remember, it's a funny story, but like I remember that like at age 12, I really didn't shave my legs. The only thing I shaved were like armpits and stuff like that. And these girls will always talk about like shaving their arms. And I was like, what's going on? I'm like, I was so confused. I like just small things like that where I remember like I'm so out of place. Like I felt like, oh my God, like these are like grown-ups. And like now 2 years is so little, but like at that age, it matters everything. So I think it was then when I had these tryouts that I was realizing that my dream that I had and now already achieved kind of thing was like a very small kind of step only. Like, this is only the beginning. Like, now I want to be able to play on this team, or I want to achieve things with this team. And I think it was then when I realized to really have big aspirations. And yeah, I didn't make that team, or like I wasn't a player on that team. I was only like a practice player. And then I was though the captain as well for like my age group. I was the captain. I was on the team. And then with 16, I signed my first professional contract. And I think from there on, I really had like huge dreams and felt like, okay, I might be good at this. Yeah, and I think that. Sorry.
So how did it feel, being pro at 16?
Again, weird. I felt out of place, and I still felt like I really deserved this. So it's like a very weird feeling. It was something I worked for, and it was something I wanted, and I knew I wanted. But when it happened, I did feel like, oh wow, this is maybe a little bit too much. And I think it wasn't like the level. I think it was like high, but that was okay. It was just more my surrounding. Like, all of a sudden, I lived with two grown-up women. One from the States and one was Swiss, but from the French parts. I like both of those. I'm German speaking. My mother language is in German. So both those women didn't really speak any of my languages. And I remember like I just felt so, again, weird, and like I was so insecure about things. And I think it was a lot of things coming together, playing with people from all over the world, not being able to really express yet how I was feeling in other languages. I only was able to do so in German. Yeah, just a whole new world opening up for me. So therefore, I really would say that I grew up in professional sports. Like, it's what I've known for most of my like adult life, and it's interesting how it shaped my beliefs and my views. Yeah, but I'm really grateful for it. I think it made me a better person overall, and a better athlete for sure. So yeah.
So you're what? How many years in so far?
I'm now 23, but turning 24 soon. So it's gonna be my eighth, yeah, my 8th year playing pro.
That's legit.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because I feel like when you look at that number, it sounds like I'm a veteran. But then if it's like, okay, I'm 24, it's like, well, okay, you're still early on. Like you got loads of time. But yeah, so it's a little.
So how many years did you play in Switzerland versus eventually going abroad?
I played 6 years.
6 years.
And 4 of those years, I wasn't really a starter. Like I was just practicing. And I think that's also important for like people to realize sometimes, because I feel like I didn't realize that. I thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna come and maybe gonna take me a year or two, but then I'm gonna play, like I got this. No, it wasn't the case at all. Like it's so much more than just like being ready for that level. It's being ready for that like whole load of practices and pressure and games and expectations. And yeah, I think also tactic wise, like it took me a while to get like really understand some things behind it. And therefore it wasn't just like before I was really just studying volleyball and was like, okay, I have to like remember all this. And it took me a while till I realized like why we're doing certain things. And then you don't really need to study things anymore because it's logical to you. But that takes you longer than like a year or two. And so for 4 years, that was frustrating for me. I didn't think it's going to take 4 years. I was just a practice player. I was on the bench mostly. But it's good. I think it teaches you a lot of lessons being on the bench, not only of like the person you are on the bench and like the supportive teammate, you like that role of a supportive teammate you more have, but as well like it allows you to have a different angle on the game. And I, looking back especially, I always try to like see that positive in that, because I know at the time I struggled with that a little bit. I was more frustrated than not. But when I had my chance to play, I loved it, and I knew even more that this is what I want to do. And yeah, so I played 2 years in Switzerland. I played 2 years in Neuchâtel as a starter, and had some great years, built up some confidence. And then I was like, okay, I want to see if something opens up. Like I was ready to, like, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, you know. But I was just ready to be in contact with an agent and see, send my videos and see what there is.
But it kind of give you a perspective though. Like in the U.S., you know, athletes go for like 4 years in college, university. So it's almost like you kind of had your 4 years of college, but you're trying to playing pro for 4 years.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially that you're now bringing in like U.S. athletes. I feel like for them, they have such a different opportunity where they always play with people their age, because they are in high school together on that club team, and it's like their age people. And then they go to college, and again, it's like mostly their age people. Obviously, they're maybe 3 years older than you, but that's the range. Now, I was 16, I played with players that were 30 or 28. They had kids. They, like, no one was my age. Like the next youngest was like 24, which, you know, it's a big difference. So I feel like, yeah, it really shaped certain like things of how I see the sport. And I do think, like, looking back, it was maybe like a hard lesson. It's not, I mean, if you're 16-year-old and your teammates are 28, it's very hard to connect on their end and on my end. But yeah.
Because it's like a whole different mindset, right?
Exactly. And it's for them, it's more than just a dream. Like, they're living it and they're paying bills with it. They're providing family with this sport. And I'm just here and I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. This is my dream. This is what I want to do. And it's like really this naive mindset of like, yeah, this is amazing. And, you know, and like, it's for them, it's, I don't know, it's still, of course, something that they enjoy doing, but it's really what they have found as a way to provide for their life. And that was not something that I had to worry about at 16.
That's cool though, just to hear that journey of it, you know, like just like I can imagine being 16 and you're playing, you know, with 30-year-old, and they're just probably more developed, you know, strength wise, and just they're maybe probably hitting the ball a little bit harder than you can hit right now, and you're like, whoa. So I guess like having that spectrum, what kept you going? Like why didn't you quit or give up on the dream?
I think in the beginning it was stubbornness. Like my first year, I really wasn't as happy. And I think it was a big awakening of like, oh shit, this is how it really is like. And it wasn't all that sweet. And I think as well, like what is important to keep in mind, I guess, is like when I was 16, I had this, I mean, that's okay as well. But I was so confident. I thought that I'm good. I'm a talent. I can do this. And then you come to this team and it's like, you're one of 20, first of all. You're probably the worst. So they're a 19 player better than you. Yeah, sure, they're older than you, but still they're like significantly better than you. And I know it's that, yeah, it hits you and it's kind of like, oh shit, like I am not a nobody, but I'm one of a many. And I think that was like that's something that like I think is important because I feel it keeps you humble. But I would say like after that year, it wasn't fun, but I was like, I'm not gonna quit. I was so determined of like, no, this is my dream and I'm not going to give up on it, that I think the first year was really stubbornness. The second year I saw some improvements. So I was like, okay, we just go. And the third year, I got to say, I was at Volleyball Zurich first, which was a very professional and big team of Switzerland. They had like many veterans on the team. Like a lot of those girls played Olympic games already and stuff like that. And after that, I went to Neuchâtel, which was more of like a smaller club at the time. And they really just had also this dream of like winning championship. And that was a little easier because I felt more connected to those people as well. I was older, I was 19. But my third year was hard. And I think then it really took me, I got injured as well. And I think it took me that little like step back of like, okay, who am I without the sport? And I think a lot of those questions, as well as like growing up, I mean, that's the difficult on its own. Like, yeah, going through puberty is not easy. So I think in general, just having those struggles, then being injured, being on a team that I didn't necessarily feel like I was fitting on at all. I felt till the last point, I felt like I was just not good enough in no means. So I think it took that, like I took a little time away. Took the whole summer off, and I still realized like, okay, even though I might not be where I want to be at, I still believe that there is something that I can push, and I don't want to look back and be like, oh, I gave up because of fear. And I think that was a big one as well. I think I don't want to be led by fear. And I think a lot of it, what I was experiencing at the time was like the fear of failure and the fear of not being who I hoped to be. And I was like, okay, if that's going to happen, that's not bad. That's okay. As you said before, we not all of us can be, Jordan Larson, or, there's no place for every one of us to do so. But I'm not going to give up and because of fear, because failure at the end of the day is not a bad thing. It teaches you a lesson. So I was like, okay, I don't want to give up and initially it was like I was afraid of failing. I was afraid of not being that person who I hoped to be, and I was afraid of that judgment that people would maybe have. And I think I didn't want that to be the case. I didn't want like that was determining my career.
I can relate to that so much. I think a lot of athletes can too. Just if you have this idea, this dream life, right? And you're like, man, if I don't achieve this, everyone's gonna know that I didn't make it, or I didn't do the things that I always talked about that I was gonna do. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's like just was like maybe it's our ego, right? But it's like it drives us to keep fighting through the days where you don't want to get out of bed, right? Or the days where you roll an ankle, you're like, I really want to, tape it up and get back out there. So,
sure. Yeah.
So for you, when you took that summer off and you kind of had to figure out who you were outside of the game, what was your answer?
I think I took a lot of time to spend with my family, because that was something that I wasn't able to do for the 3 years or before. Again, something I think a lot of athletes can relate to. You give up a lot of that family and friends time. And I think I realized that I was very valued by my family members for the person I am and not for the sport. It was really helpful. I went to visit my grandma who lives in the Netherlands. So I'm part Dutch. And in Netherlands, no one of my family plays sports, or not on a professional level. They're not really interested in it too much. They do something, but it's not like that same aspect, same angle. So none of them really ask me questions about volleyball either. So it's more like, I don't know, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Like, it's not that like angle of like, oh, what is your latest performance? Like, what is your whatever? And I think I love my parents, but I think my mom, as being a coach as well, sport was a huge topic in our household all the time. And I think it was so good for me to kind of like be in a different environment where, to be honest, no one cared, but they were like, okay, it's whatever, it's volleyball. And I think that was really healthy for me. And I realized that I was appreciated for the friend and family member I was to them, and not for my performances or my achievements. They didn't matter. And I think that was really healthy, that I was like, okay, I hold a lot of value. If you take the sport away, I still gonna be myself, and people are still gonna like me for who I am, or at least my family members. I didn't know about the rest of the world, but I was like, the family members do. So
you have a cool journey so far. On your kind of thing, you said growing up in, as a professional athlete, and I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But because I was like you can pro maybe like 21, and you're like, you're going through, but you really started at 16, so that's really growing up as a professional athlete. So that all makes sense now.
Yeah, I really think that's something unique, even though in Europe we see it more often, because in Europe we just don't have college, so people don't push for college. And technically we can sign contracts as early as we want, as long as the parents sign with it. But it was not unheard of 16. But it was like I moved out. I like had to cook for myself. I had to clean after myself. Like it was things that normally people start doing when they go, to college maybe. And or even then, like in college you have cafeterias, like you still are maybe not cooking as much for yourself. But I really had to figure out when to do groceries and like how to make the best out of those groceries. Like that was also something I think a lot of people can relate to. Like in the beginning, you just buy something for one meal, and I don't know, you don't realize like, okay, with the same ingredients, I might be able to do a second meal that just tastes completely different, but I don't need to do groceries twice. And then with just small things like that, I think that I had to experience a little bit earlier than others. And I struggle with it. Like, I'm not gonna, like, I don't want to fairy tale it all. Like it wasn't easy, but I look back and I think it's funny how it shaped me into the person I am today. And I do think it gave me that little humbleness always, as you said earlier, because I don't want to, well, first of all, I don't want to brag. I don't like that. But I also believe, as I said really before, I really believe that I really think I love what I'm doing and I'm proud of what I achieved. But I don't hope that it's gonna be this milestone and no one else will reach Switzerland, because it's not. And I think this first experience in professional sport really helped me with that. Just seeing so many great athletes and seeing so many of their struggles and things they had to give up for it also made me realize that there are certain limits that I'm not okay with giving up for the sport. And I think with always keeping that in mind, that like, I love this and this is amazing, I am not as dedicated as some of the girls on my team were, where if I was in the question of like continuing or being, I go crazy, but like say your dad is dying and whatever, and you can't go home because you're with this contract, I know what my choice would be, and it wouldn't be the sport. So I think with that in mind, I also knew that I love it, but there are limits to it. Yes. So yeah,
you got to establish your boundaries of the game.
Yeah.
So going on the cooking thing.
Yeah.
I'm a foodie. So what's your best meal?
My boyfriend would say risotto. He eats about 3 times a week. Every time else, I'm like, what are you gonna have? He's like, can you make risotto? I'm like, okay, sure. I like making risotto. I do like it. I would say arguably now probably it's my best meal just because I'm making it so often. I'm a vegetarian, so I don't really eat any meats, and I'm really bad at preparing it. So even if I wouldn't eat it, I probably wouldn't be the yummiest. But yeah, I don't know. I like mixing around with like beans and potatoes. Maybe that's a very European thing, but I think so. I love potatoes. I think they're awesome. I love them in shapes and forms. I love sweet potatoes, white potatoes, whatever potatoes. Yeah, I don't know, but I really feel like, it was in the beginning, it was as well this like, I don't know if that makes sense, but in the beginning I felt like I want to eat like super healthy and get like in shape and being super whatever. So I realized like, but no one survives on salads. Like it's not gonna help you anywhere. Yeah, I think nutrition isn't easy. And it's, I think, especially as athletes where it is a part of your performance, it's hard to find a good balance, because it is, like obviously you can't go out and just eat fast food 3 times a day. That's really gonna hurt your body, and it's not gonna help you perform. But as well, at least for me, I figured out when I'm on a restrictive diet, it's hurting my mental health, and that's not okay for me either to risk. So it's like, I think we have there as athletes, I think we have a unique kind of spot where we need to take care of our diet. But I believe for most of us, it can't be super restrictive because it's not going to help us, because it's like we don't diet for like a month. We initially had to diet for all our life. And like, who's doing that? Like who is happy with that? And I think as women, like I don't want to say men don't have that problem at all, but I think women are even more judged on their appearance sometimes, just because of society in general. Like take sport away, I think women are more judged in the way they look. And I think with experiencing that and then putting that in the athlete, it's not helping either with like feeling comfortable in the way you look. And
I think that's a good person right there. I think definitely true. So so exactly. On that, so if we want to have a 9-point cooking show, can you do risotto? Can you do
of course. I'll make you some risotto. Yeah.
I want to I want to find a way to kind of get athletes going and like me kind of have a kitchen myself, and we can kind of like cook, at the same time. And I'll probably ruin it, but yours look good, and then we can just make it a show.
I like that. I like that idea. Let's go. Yeah.
All right, sweet. So to kind of going back to you're going abroad, and you say
Yeah.
you gotta get an agent. So how did you kind of go about that agent journey?
Oh, that wasn't easy. I first reached out to a good friend of mine, a Swiss player who was playing abroad already, and a good friend of mine. And she was also someone who pushed, like, no, you should, because I was like telling her, I was like, I think I like want to try, but I also thought because her journey was different, like she was dominating this league and then left, that she's gonna maybe like, maybe wait another year or two. But she was like, no, 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 if you're ready for it, go. There's no need to wait. I'm sure you will find a club. And she was like, well, if you want to talk to my agent, go ahead. And I did talk to the agent, and he was a really nice guy, and I really connected up to him as well on a personal level, but I don't think on the athlete's level so much, because he had like very different goals for me. Because like I was saying, I was like, look, I know I'm like in the best team of Switzerland and I'm winning. So it looks really good on stats. But I think the way I'm playing, I know that there is more. And I know that like I have to go to a team where I can have a role where, as I said before, like I maybe swing more balls, just like easy as that. Just have a role where I can swing more balls, because that's going to allow me to work on different shots, work on different angles as well. And for example, as a reference, before in my old club, I was a hitter that got mostly sets were in system, which are a little bit easier to hit. They maybe are the quickest set, but if they are executed well, you have one or like 1.5 blockers up, because it's if setter has 3 options, it's really hard for the opponent team to set up a good double block. So it's a little bit easier to score in that sense. Now I almost never got like a high ball, so out of system set, where like the opponent team has like the time of the world to set up their block. You have either 2 or even like 3 people up blocking you. That wasn't something, those balls weren't normally coming to me. It was really rarely. And I knew that like if I wanted to take the next step, I need to be able to swing out of system. It's just like I need this in my repertoire, and I know I can, but I need to be in a team where I have that I am that player that they go to, you know. So I told my agent, I was like, I know I want to go somewhere, maybe not the highest league of Europe. Like Finland isn't a much higher league than Switzerland. I would say they're pretty equal. But I was like, it doesn't matter of the level. I just need to go somewhere else and have a different role and be able to be the foreigner somewhere. They just like look that different. You just naturally have more responsibility. It's just how it is. And I'm like, I just have to have that experience. And he was like, no, like you're good enough. Let's put you in a team in Germany, and you work your way through. Maybe your first year you're not going to play, but then the second year you are. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome, but that's not, I don't think that it's going to make me happy. And I think we were on different ends. And I even believe he might be right. Like maybe if you look at the longevity of my career, maybe that would have been the best step. But I just knew that I'm not going to be happy from it. So I told him, I'm like, I don't think this is going to work out, because as much as I believe that you have best interest for me, they're not what I want right now. And I think, I don't know, like I don't, he wasn't as like, he wasn't mad at me or anything, like it was, but it is not easy, especially because I feel like also for him, like he does have a lot of experience already. So maybe for him it was like, oh, this girl is stupid, like why is she doing this? But for me, I really knew, I was like, if I'm gonna do this and do what he told me, I don't think I'm gonna be happy. And I was like, it's not worth it. I'm not gonna do something that may be best for my career, but it's not gonna make me happy. So I had another teammate on my team at that time who had an agent. She's an American. Well, Kathleen works for as well, but her name is Charlotte. And she's American, but she lives in Europe. And so therefore her base is in Europe. She has some European players, but mostly Americans. And I reached out to her, and I just felt like she understood her role as an agent much more of like, okay, providing what I want. So, I mean, she wasn't really telling me like, oh, I think this is best for you. She just kind of was like, okay, if that's what you want to do, you go for that. And I appreciated that. I was like, okay, cool. That's like, and I mean, I really believe that there are 2 ways of going this. In the end of the day, you can look at the job as agent as like someone that's providing a service for me, so they should do what I'm telling them. Or you can be like, oh, well, they're older, mostly more experienced, so they can maybe also guide a person. But I think at that moment, I knew what I wanted, and I was really determined on getting that. So I think therefore Shella was like a better fit. And yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
I just interviewed Charlotte the other day for her kind of I learned
Cool.
her story, and she kind of has that vibe that you just kind of gave. It's like she the whole Africa Broad little group right there. Big group really. They're growing. It's like very like community based, like
Yeah,
she's very like about the athlete, and that's
yeah,
so rare to really probably hear an agent,
yeah.
it's like really.
I agree. No, I think what I appreciate about her is like she really wants to make sure that our experiences are good. So I think therefore sometimes she's like, she won't put us in spots where it's risky. Now I don't know yet because I do like taking risk, but so we will see. But no, I appreciate that a lot about her. I think it's really cool. And as you said, she's really community, like that's really important to her. And it's something I appreciate as well, because I think all of us are stronger in a community. I truly believe that, especially if you are a volleyball player. I think you're so prone, and so like you're always used to that, like you always have that kind of like team setting, and you always are a part of something. And so that they represent that also in their agency. It isn't like, I mean, of course it's one-on-one, the where you're going to play next, but in general everything else is like not one-on-one, it's a whole meeting. I like that. I think it's cool. And I think why not, use other wisdom that other players have gained throughout the years, and like be like, oh, this is maybe something I can try out, without like you going through the whole circle of coming to that resolution. So yeah, I like that.
I want to be an honorary athlete abroad athlete.
Come on. Come on, we need someone. I'm sure they'll find a job for you.
Give me something, give me a jersey, put me in, coach, put me in. I'll be the water boy.
That's great.
I'll be the foreigner water boy.
Oh, great. Awesome.
So you're now in Finland, right?
Yeah, I played last year in Finland. I'm going to Spain.
So last year in Finland, so now you were the foreigner.
Yeah.
How did that go, from that journey, to now you kind of have that role that you're looking for?
Mm-hmm. Well, I like that. I loved it. Honestly, I think it was a very cool experience. I felt like I was lucky in the team that I was playing. We have more foreigners than is like usual, I'd say, for any Swiss team, and also for Finnish team, it was more of like a lot of foreigners compared to like the Finnish players. It's hard. The Finnish language is super hard to learn. So therefore, if the Finnish players, their English wasn't as good, it was really hard for us to communicate with them. But that wasn't really the case too much like in a team. It was more like a case with like outside of the team, which was something, looking back, I feel like is maybe something I missed a little bit, because I do think if you are always in your team, it's really easy to just always talk about volleyball. And that's, I mean, I love volleyball. Don't get me wrong, I can talk about it for days. But after 9 months, I just, you want to do something else. So I feel like obviously in Switzerland, it was like a lot easier because I had my friends and family there. So I could easily just be like, you know what, tonight I'm just going to go with my friends and just like we joke about anything but volleyball. And that just wasn't as easy in Finland because my friends were my teammates. Like other part of that was really hard to connect. No, I liked it a lot. I thought I was really well treated by the club. I love the responsibility in a sense of like knowing that they got me here for a reason. I knew that the coach believed in me to be the kind of player I was looking for. Otherwise, he wouldn't have signed me. And I think that was really cool. A cool feeling. And I liked, well, I like pressure. I love high pressure games. I love finals. I love, yeah, cup where it's like one or out. I don't know, I think it's something about it. Or I love fifth set, for example. I love when there is like only 15 points and it's deciding if you're winning or losing the game. I feel like for me, it's always like these are the moments I train for, because no one's well, at least I don't train to win 25-5. Like I think that's boring. So I think I definitely look for that pressure as well. And I think it's easier for me to have that pressure put on outside. Like if someone is telling me, oh, well, I need you to be this and this, because I myself will come up with the pressure for myself anyways, but that's not always the best pressure to have, because I think a lot of people can relate to as well. You're your hardest criticism and you're the one who expects the most from you. So if I don't really have, or I don't feel like I have a lot of pressure from outside, I will create that for myself. That's mostly not the best situation to be in. So I appreciated that like there was pressure, but it kind of took away the pressure that I put on myself. So yeah, I really liked it. It was a great year.
And how did that Finland season go?
It
Like
went amazing.
in terms of, 'cause then you guys win the
Yeah, we
title.
won 2 gold medals. Yeah, we won 2 titles for the club, first time ever. It was very dramatic in our so in Finland there's a best of 7 series for the finals, which in Finland and Switzerland is best of 5, and I think that's long enough. But best of 7 was like pushing it. And Finland, the distances are huge. So it doesn't look like a huge country on the map. It's so big. Like it's definitely like it looks smaller than it actually is. And I know I'm very privileged in Switzerland, like the longest journeys are like 3 hours away to like away game. And there it was like 12, 14 hours trip. It didn't make sense to fly for us because none of those teams were like close to airports. So we always in the bus. And the team we're playing in the finals was a team that was like at least not 14 hours away, but it was like 12 hours away. And we played every other day. So we were like playing at home, driving, playing another game, driving overnight back, having a half day of rest, practice, play again. And that for like 7 games because I think we were up 3-1. So I also remember Charlotte because she was like in Switzerland, we would have won. She's like, you guys won, right? I'm like, no, it's not done. Like we have to win 4 games. And then in our in that game, that like the 4th game where we were up 3-1, our first setter got injured. She tore her Achilles. So like a big injury. And we had to play with our second setter, and it was like a big adjustment for our team. It's just she's a different type of player, and throughout the playoffs we were more used to our first setter, so it took us a little bit. So we lost 3 games, no 2 games in a row, right? Yeah, that was free, and then we had the decisive 7th game at home. And no one was believing we were going to win. Like I know the commentators were like, oh, it's going to be a 3-0 for like the opponent team. I know the opponent team showed up with like they had like a huge fan base, people coming up like 12 hours away from like their place. They showed up with like a statue, or like it was made out of what is it called? Cupboard? Is that a material? No.
I think so.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. They just had like a woman, like they had themselves in like real life statue, and they had it like around the volleyball field. I don't know, the volleyball court. I don't know if it was to intimidate us. I don't know. I didn't really get it, but like it looked like they were super like, oh yeah, we got this, whatever. And I think it was one of the best games I ever had. It was so much fun. We knew that this is our chance. We knew that we can win. It's just we have really to play together. Like there is no place for ego right now, like none of it. And I think we really struggle with that the 2 games before, because it was like, well, it was kind of like we had to step out as a team because now we have this other setter. And I think that always creates that kind of like loop for like ego to show up and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna whatever. And that's just almost never gonna work out. So I think we really had to come back and be like, okay, we are just greatest if we play for each other. So we have to like, there is just no way for any one of us to have like a one-man show right now. And it was, I mean, I don't know, I loved it so much. It was incredible. We won in 4 sets and we dominated it. I'm sorry. Like it was like just sales commentators who were like, oh well, they're gonna be losing 3-0. No, we won. And yeah, it was amazing. It was really cool.
That pressure, right?
Yeah, exactly. What I'm talking about, like, I don't know, I just love it. It's those moments where I really think it's also something, I don't know if a lot of athletes can relate to that, but it's something that helped me a lot with that pressure that I put on myself. I get super self-focused as well, right? Like I think about my mistakes, or like my stats are in my head. Like it's so hard to not think about my stats, and I know them. I know how many points I have. I know how many mistakes I made, and I'm almost always correct. Like if I look afterwards at the stats board, it's like, yeah. But that's because like I allow like my brain to be very consumed with me. And if we have this high pressure moment, I know that I need to look out for my teammates. I know that there are certain things that I don't like. It's not about me making a mistake or me scoring. It's about me providing that someone else can have an opportunity. And I think that's why I love high pressure moments so much, because it allows me to not think about me. I don't know. It sounds super selfish, like otherwise I think about myself so much, but I think if I don't have that pressure, it just I'm more thinking about like, oh, now I want to work on this swing and I want to try out this and whatever, which I think are not bad things to think about, but that create that pressure on me, or like I put that pressure on me. And then if I have a high pressure moment, I don't really care about my performance so much. I just want to win, and I just want to help the team getting to that point. So I am much more consumed by the thoughts of like, okay, what does my team need right now in order to make the next points? And yeah.
Is it almost that like when the pressure you think less, you kind of play more freely?
Um,
Or-
a little bit. I think the pressure of like high pressures moments
Yeah.
allow me to play more freely. I don't really know why, but it just I do think so. But I think it's because like my mind is not focused with my performance. It's really not. It's going on with like
The game.
it's the game, and like and much more like what does a person next to me right now? Like it could be really small things. Like maybe I just need to remind them like, hey, like this person's up, like be sure that you follow her, whatever it is. But like I'm way more focused on like, what can the person next to me need from me? And I think in a game where I know, well, it's very unlikely that we're going to lose, I don't really feel like I need to help someone else. I'm just like, they got it. I mean, sure. So it allows me to have that focus on me, and like, that's sometimes mostly not the best thing that can happen for me, at least. And then I get too much.
It's interesting though. I want to like find your highlights now and watch your game.
Sure. My highlights are on YouTube. Should be up there somewhere.
Yeah, I want to watch it like I see a switch. She's thinking about it, or whether the pressure is on, and it's a different game. But I guess the question for you then, like I love always asking, right? So if we talk about when you first started, so like the very youth Julie, right?
Yeah.
And what would you tell her, about this journey? About you're going to go to Finland, you're going to go to Spain next year. Like, what would you tell her about the journey ahead?
Well, I would tell her that the journey is maybe a lot harder than she thinks it's going to be, and it's going to put you in moments where you're going to doubt yourself heavily, and you're going to doubt the journey. And it probably you are facing some of your biggest fears, but it's very rewarding, and you're going to meet incredible people. Like really, I think I met so many amazing human beings on my journey. And it's gonna transform you in a different person, but I feel like it transforms you for the better. So I would tell young Julie to just keep believing that you are good the way you are as a person. Like you don't need to change as a person. Never let someone tell you that. You're great the way you are, but be persistent and keep believing in it, because it's gonna work out. And I think I want to take that kind of like with me for the future as well. Like I hope when I'm 30, I will say the same things to my now 23-year-old self, that I still believe that they're gonna be, I'm gonna change challenges, and they probably are harder than I now can imagine. It's just that's how life goes. But I do believe that I'm ready for it, in a sense of like, or I will be ready for it, whatever it will come. I know that I have the tools to overcome it, and just be persistent, and be humble enough to take on the challenge. Like, don't think that you're too good for it or whatever. You're not. So yeah.
That was good.
Thank you.
So we talked to you two about the journey ahead. Now, what about those kids back home in Switzerland? What would you say to them? I mean, I don't know. Like you can say it in German, you can say it in English, whatever, however you want to say it.
Okay, I love that. Well, I'm gonna say it in English though, just because now I'm in the English flow. No, I want them to dream big, and not be afraid of like that dream might be too big. It's okay to while you're on the journey to realize that maybe that dream that you once had maybe isn't even your dream anymore, but just have the courage to dream big when you're early, and like take on that journey, because it's going to lead you to so many cool places and things, and you won't see it if you play it safe. I think it's just how it is. Like you won't see certain things, experience certain moments if you play it safe, and it's scary. And I'm sure every one of us is challenging, or is challenged. Like, I don't think any athlete journey, even the greatest ones that you think, oh wow, if I just had that, like they're also challenged, and they also have bumpy roads. But just have the courage to dream big, because it's so much better to adapt maybe a dream, or be okay with maybe not exactly reaching that dream, than to never have the courage to take it on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want them to do that. Yeah.
You're speaking from fire right now this morning.
Now you're up.
I'm really up, right? I'm about to go, I don't know, chop down a tree or something. Yes.
Oh wow.
No, there's no trees out here in Phoenix. There's all
okay.
I'll go to jail for that out here. But so I guess here's a question for you. So I guess, so what's next for you? As you're taking this next stage in your journey. What's next for Julie?
Yeah, a very exciting step. I'm going to Spain. I'm going to play for Tenerife. So I think for the first time ever, I also made a choice of like that I want to play at that place. I want to play. It's an island it's an island. It's a little south than Spain, so like it's a little sunnier. It's gonna be sunny all year round. My boyfriend's gonna come live with me, so I definitely also made choices in that direction of knowing that that's gonna make me happy, hopefully. But
risotto ready.
Exactly, I got a stack on the risotto. Yeah, but we're gonna play Champions League with this team, so I'm really excited to experience that. I want to win championship again. I want to get more gold medals. I hopefully want to connect more to that culture, because it's going to be a little bit easier, I think, for me to learn the language, since I speak some French. I started a little bit, and it seems to be a lot easy flowing. Than like the Finnish was a mess. But I'm really excited for that. I'm excited to like hopefully get in touch with some Spanish culture and learn from that as well. Yeah, that's next for me.
All right, so once you win the championship, can I get an autograph?
Oh, sure.
What? All right.
Sure, I got you. Yeah.
All right, it's on camera, it's recorded, so
okay.
Living proof.
Wait, what did I promise? Just a signature, an autograph, or a jersey as well?
Say that again.
Just an autograph, like a signature. You want
like an autograph jersey? Like I want like the
jersey. Okay, full.
I want to frame it up and be like.
Oh, okay. Well, I have to maybe like fight with my mom. She normally wants my jersey, but let's see.
Okay, all right. I don't know.
No, don't worry. Hey. We will see. She has enough of them already. So I will see.
Sounds good. And then last question for you, Julie, but I'll let you go. Where are you at social media wise? Website you can kind of mention right now?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Julie Lengweiler, just my full name. That's it. I think that's easiest for people to find me. Yeah.
Well, Julie, it's been a pleasure. It's been great learning your story and just how you came from 16-year-old pro to really like living your dream to the fullest. So we'll look forward to seeing what you do next season.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Yo, thanks for listening to this episode of the 9 Point Started With a Dream podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please comment, share, leave a review. We would love to hear your thoughts. You can find more athlete-driven content at 9point.com. Till the next episode, you're only one opportunity away. Peace.